went. They went with a different Logan. But probably it would have been the guy I would have pushed for, especially for a fit in that system, would probably have been Stankoven. Atu Ratu comes to mind as well, but I know that there were teams that didn't want him. They had him on their D&D list, and maybe Montreal was another one of those. And if that's what happens, then that's what happens. I don't know everything there is to be known about every player possibly. So if there's something else there that put him down a lot of boards that I just didn't see on the ice, then that's one thing. So to answer your question quickly, probably would have been Logan Stankoven, especially for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, what hurt even more was that during his draft interview, he also said that he grew up a Habs fan.
Of course he did.
It was just
life
like twisting the knife.
Yeah, life is pain. Like, everything hurts.
I was pushing for Stankoven for the pick, and I just heard Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Logan. I was like, yes! And it was like the biggest high to just like the crashing low.
But, a little bit, yeah. Life is pain. That's how it works.
You mean being a Toronto Maple Leafs fan?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know. Toronto. It's been so cloudy here for the last 50 years, and I wonder why.
I'm sorry.
All or nothing.
I went there.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. Yeah.
All or nothing.
Yeah.
Scott, you had another question for our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like going a bit back to the Canadiens and their current situation, one of the things that's sort of been occupying the news for the team recently has been Carey Price, obviously, and his decision to take time away to focus on himself, entering the NHL's player assistance program. Obviously, speculating as to why Price made this decision is just, in my opinion, completely out of line, and sometimes he just needs his time to focus on himself. But that in mind, how do you think the Canadiens will fare next season with Price out for the foreseeable future? How do you think Montreal and Allen will work together?
I mean, it's tough,
right? We've all been grunting in the last,
I mean, you can't gather too much from preseason play, but it is clear that Montreal is. You don't have Shea Weber either, and that sucks. And goaltending will sink your team if it's not very good. I don't mind Jake Allen. He has played a lot of NHL games, and maybe if you get, if you get league average goaltending, you can win the Stanley Cup. Like, it's possible. It's not impossible. But if you don't have league average goaltending and it's poor, you're not going to win. It's just not going to happen. I look at Montreal's roster up and down. I remember back to how they played in the playoffs. A lot of the success in the playoffs, I think, can be traced to Carey Price to a certain extent. But at the same time, the way that team plays, if they get rolling, they can really roll. I love guys like Josh Anderson, for example, on that team. Cole Caulfield with a full season, if he pops off for, say, 30 goals this year, even if it's on the power play and it makes Montreal's power play a little bit more lethal, then that's a win. I still question sort of the depth of the team. I question how much people are sort of underrating the lost value in Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And I like Christian Dvorak, but it seems like a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans were happy to kick him in the butt on the way out the door. And I'm not so sure that that's such a great idea, especially considering how promising he has been in his career. But I get it that in that specific situation, he probably would sign that contract. And you probably don't match it if you're the Montreal Canadiens. It just sucks. So I get the feeling that they're going to, I'm not saying they won't be a playoff team though. I won't say that. I think that, they might be a team there that pushes to make the playoffs and gets in just by maybe Jake Allen stealing a game here and there, if that's possible. But I also look at a team like in their division, like say the Florida Panthers or you look at Toronto, Tampa, and Florida. That's a tough three to get over. And then you've also got Boston. And Boston, I feel like Boston and Montreal are in a similar spot where there's a lot of question marks. The depth of the team, you can kind of shake your head at a little bit, but you don't discount them because of what Montreal did last year and what Boston does historically. And even the Ottawa Senators, like everybody laughs at the Ottawa Senators, but I would not count them out either, especially, again, if they get league average goaltending and their young guys step up, then maybe there's something there. But Montreal might push for the playoffs, I would think, especially if they can get past, say, the Boston Bruins this year. But yeah, I mean, losing Carey Price, obviously his personal life comes first. And I think a lot of people forget that these people are human beings with human problems sometimes. But it's going to be an interesting year for Montreal, I think. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
To say that if I was, well, I'm talking to his agent. If somebody offered me $6.1 million, I'd definitely take that money. So
Yep. Yep. I'd say so too.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
And then to shift our focus back towards the draft class, I think everyone on this panel just hated the first round pick, but in terms of the Habs' other picks in that draft, a lot of them were a little bit, I guess, head scratching to me at least at the draft. Like Riley Kidney would be a name that I wasn't expecting at the end of the second round, but he's also started the new season absolutely on fire, getting I think 5 goals and 9 points in his first 5 games. And I guess who would be some players that the Habs drafted in the last draft that you love, and who would be some that you might be a bit more lukewarm on?
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the draft class shakes out. I've got it pulled up here. They took some shots in the dark, right? Like Daniil Sobolev and Joe Vrbetic, they didn't play last year. And Joe Vrbetic was at times a top 100 prospect to some people had the OHL played last year. I think North Bay being so horrible that one year did not help. But in the 7th round, and you have a 6'6" goaltender who's as well regarded as Joe Vrbetic. You get a couple of years, you see what happens, and if you fail, it's a 7th round pick. Who cares? But if you get your goalie, then the Caden Primo was a guy who didn't have great save percentages before being drafted, and now he's turned into a pretty interesting goaltending prospect. So maybe you get the same kind of luck out of Vrbetic. But again, similar to Harvey Pinard, I was really happy to see Xavier Simoneau get a draft pick. I may not have picked him, but I'm glad someone just said, screw it, let's see what happens. I was not a fan of Josh Waugh. Not really a fan of William Trudeau. I wanted to like Dmitry Kostenko so bad. I really, really wanted to. I've seen him. I've been watching him play for 2 seasons now at the pro level. Or no, he played the junior level the year before last and then the pro level this past year in Russia. And I mean, he's a guy who's got some skill and length. I don't really like his skating ability right now. He's a big guy who's not very physical. Like, to me, that seems like the Montreal Canadiens are kind of betting on skill with him. And, his data that I tracked was pretty bad. But you could still see a little bit of a skilled offensive defenseman there out of Kostenko. And maybe they think they have like a miniature Norlinder kind of pick there in the 3rd round, just like, maybe you can turn him into that type of a player in the future, but I've never been super enthralled with like his actual game as a full-on package deal. But the two guys they took in the 2nd round, like Oliver Kapanen is a really interesting one. He's nothing like his cousin, Kasperi, nothing like him at all. In fact, it's almost like the polar opposite, where Kasperi Kapanen has all the talent in the world to do pretty much whatever he wants in the NHL. He's not the smartest player, not the most responsible offensive player with the puck. He kind of plays individually and doesn't really have that top tier NHL game yet, but you can see that he might maybe get there. But Oliver is just super smart and super crafty and super clever. In the late 2nd round, I thought that was a really interesting pickup, maybe a little bit higher than I would have thought, but I don't really care at that range of the draft. There might have been some names that I would have wanted over him, but if you're betting on his intelligence and how responsible he is with the puck, he put up really good numbers in the data that I tracked at the Finnish junior level. But I like him quite a bit. But again, the thing that'll hold him back is that the talent level for him is not quite that, NHL caliber just yet as much as a lot of other guys in that range. The skating needs work. The skill level is crafty and slippery, but not necessarily super high level. Problem solving, getting through layers. It's just not quite there yet, but he's very, 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 very smart. So maybe there's something that Montreal can leverage there once he builds on those fundamentals. Riley Kidney, I have no problem with thinking that he's going to score a lot of points in junior. I didn't really come away. It was similar to Antonin Véro for me so far, like a very similar style player where you can absolutely see the skill and the evasion and the ability to produce at the junior level, but I wonder if it's quite enough. Like, I was always more drawn as an NHL prospect to his teammate. Oh man, now his name is slipping my mind. Calgary took
Cole
him.
Huckins?
Yes, Cole Huckins, who is bigger. I think he covers ice a little bit better in open ice than Riley Kidney. Not as skilled, not as fun to watch, but he's physical at both ends and, might be a 3rd line center, maybe down the road for your team. I felt that his data that he produced was pretty good. He had some games that were really, really good in Acadie Bathurst. So I like Riley Kidney. He should have gotten picked, but he wasn't on my list because I just feel that he's going to score a lot of points in junior and then maybe struggle to transition to pro hockey because the pace of his game isn't super high. He focuses kind of on winning one-on-one battles and playing with the puck himself. Whereas a guy like Cole Huckins, I feel, especially for the Montreal Canadiens, I felt was a bit more of a better fit with kind of that size and physical intensity that they kind of seem to look for, but also that side of actually being able to play hockey that Montreal can also identify in those big skilled players. So I thought that they could have done better, but I also will not doubt Trevor Timmins because I've done so in the past and it's been a mistake. So we'll see what happens. They've got some interesting value, and they definitely may have picked up some interesting players in guys like Verbetic and Simoneau, but kind of a mixed bag for me so far, especially relative to previous draft classes that Montreal has had.
Well, we're going to end this on a high note. High note. We're going to throw the prospect book out the window. Mm-hmm. We're going to burn everything. We're going to take out our little crystal ball instead. Let's look at the upcoming NHL season and tell me who's going to win the cup, who's going to win the Hart, who's going to be the top scorer, just give us your hot takes. Let's end this with some bold predictions, my friend. Go ahead.
Okay.
Putting you on the spot, I know.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. It'll be interesting. I think this year there's been a lot of player movement over the summer. For another season of Connor McDavid, Connor McDavid is probably my favorite hockey player to watch of my entire life. I don't think I ever have seen a player as exciting. Like if the NHL were a league that were, consistently, like he's a guy who should be dominant, I think. And whenever he steps on the ice, he's extremely dangerous. And I haven't seen any players in this league that, in my opinion, are as dangerous literally every time they step on the ice. When the puck is in the offensive, and when the puck is in the offensive zone, I might be more interested in an Austin Matthews, maybe. But in terms of a 200-foot all situations, like coach pats you on the back and puts you out for 60 minutes in a night, I'm taking Connor McDavid in a schoolyard pick rather than an Austin Matthews. But I think, they're again, it's two different types of super elite players. So I get the feeling that another year of Connor McDavid, he could be that Hart Trophy winner again. Like, I don't know who else. Sidney Crosby is not. He's still a very good hockey player and still one of the best in the league, but he's not 28-year-old Sidney Crosby quite as much anymore. Alex Ovechkin, he scores goals, but I think that the days of him being that perennial top 3 talent in the league are kind of waning a little bit.
Yeah, and I think we could agree that in Ovechkin's case, he's just aiming for Gretzky's goal record in that.
It's entirely possible. Mentally, that's where he's at. I'm sure he wants to win Stanley Cups too. That would help. But I get the feeling that for all those sort of best player in the league awards, like Connor McDavid should be the favorite, and I would be very surprised if it was anything but maybe Nikita Kucherov. But I get the feeling that Connor McDavid's the guy. In terms of NHL teams,
well, full disclosure, Will, before you take your pick, yes. Anthony DeMarco, who's our NHL analyst, predicted the New York Islanders are going all the way this year.
That, never count him out. And one thing that I'll be very interested in is a lot of people are looking at, say, Cole Caulfield for that Calder Trophy favorite spot. Mm-hmm. I would be very curious to see how Spencer Knight plays in Florida. I know that, like, a goalie can win the Calder. It has happened before. And he has been very good in the NHL when he has played. And if you get a hot rookie goaltender who can really start stringing wins together, maybe there's your Calder Trophy winner, even if Cole Caulfield scores 30 goals. I get the feeling that voters are going to look at the guy who's taking a good team into the playoffs, like Florida, with Joel Quenneville as his coach, might sway some voters to go with the goalie that maybe has that .920 save percentage and a 2-point whatever goals against average or whatever, and has
does have that $10 million
with a $10 million backup.
Yeah,
of course,
a little wall in front of him.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, he got into games last year, and I don't think Joel Quenneville is going to play Sergei Bobrovsky if he's bad just because he makes $10 million. I think that Spencer Knight, if he plays the plays well, he'll win that job.
Fun fact: 2009 was the last time a goaltender won the Calder, and Steve Mason with the Columbus Blue Jackets.
That's the other side of it.
Yeah, Andrew Rakoff in 2004 with Boston, Evgeny Nabokov with San Jose in 2001, and then we're going all the way back to 94 with a certain